Hot seat coaches. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about where we are right now, because this is the very beginning of November. November, the longest month in college football, because, of course, there's a lot of moving and shaking going on. Now, we don't know exactly how the hot seat's going to work this year. We don't know about the coaching carousel. We know that the House case is going on, so it looks like colleges will be paying players themselves. You don't have to have the NIL element. You can actually just put $20 million towards your roster. What is that going to look like? And are boosters and schools, et cetera, going to be up for firing a coach with a big buyout, regardless of what the situation might be? So there are some coaches that might be on a little bit of hot seat talk. This might be somewhat lengthy. We're not going to make it too lengthy today, but we'll start off with this. Mike Norvell is going nowhere at Florida State. Nowhere. He will be perfectly fine. Okay? He will probably make staff changes. Actually, I would almost guarantee that he's going to make staff changes. So, Florida State, you can look for something new to happen there, but Mike Norvell will be there for a long, long time, just so you know, because they owe him oodles of money. They've been in lawsuits against the ACC. They are worried about having enough money to be able to pay players, etc. They think that they need to make more money. I understand it, okay? So that is what we're looking at on that. Now, the ones that have already been fired: Mike Houston at East Carolina, Mike Bloomgren at Rice, and Will Hall at Southern Miss. And, of course, Fresno State and Utah State are already opened up. They opened in the summer just before the season started. So those are the ones that you're looking at right now. East Carolina is already open. Rice is already open. Southern Miss is already open. Fresno and Utah State. So no big jobs have opened up as of yet. And again, that likely has to do with the House settlement. So the ones that are staying, that I would almost guarantee are staying: Billy Napier at Florida and Dave Aranda at Baylor. Billy Napier, Scott Strickland, the AD at Florida, put out a statement today, said that he is going to be the football coach at Florida, that, you know, et cetera. They explained a lot. Dave Aranda, it appears, has figured some things out. And it's not just him that figured them out. The school also figured out that, hey, we are being left behind in the NIL space. The roster has not been good enough. Now the roster is good enough. And they have a pretty good coaching staff as well, right? You've got some interesting pieces there, I'll say. I do like their offensive coordinator. I think he fits better there than he did at Cal last year. But either way, Spavital is a good guy for Dave Aranda, and apparently for his defense as well. They seem to work complementary of each other, so long as they got a good quarterback, and Robertson is a good quarterback. So those two are staying. The ones that are likely staying, okay? Neil Brown at West Virginia. I think if they get to 6 wins, he's probably going to stick around. I don't think Ren Baker, the AD there, wants to move coaches. I mean, what are you going to do? Who's going to come in and do a better job? I think that's the question that you have to ask with all of these. So Neil Brown, I think, is going to be good at West Virginia. The fan base they might not be super happy about that, but regardless, Neil Brown should be good. Sam Pittman at Arkansas. Now, after they got absolutely housed by Ole Miss last week and then got housed by LSU before that, yeah, there are some people that are ready for a change, but the team has been drastically improved this year over last year. They made coaching changes last year. He made a bad hire with Dan Enos. Alleviated that problem. I mean, he fixed it. And I think that Robertson, the defensive coordinator, Travis Robinson, I think that's his name, he's done a magnificent job this year with what they've got. So Arkansas, I think, is going to be fine. I think Sam Pittman, if he wants to stick around, I think he will stick around, and I think Petrino is going to stick around with him. Hugh Freeze at Auburn. This is an interesting one. Their team is significantly better than their record, at least based on post-game win expectancy, etc. The turnovers have absolutely killed them. You can try and... Hugh wants to blame it on the quarterback. And they've talked about bringing in Hank Brown again to be a starter, but they tried that once already, and he threw like 3 interceptions in a game. The interceptions have absolutely killed them. However, this thing is not quite up to snuff, but you can tell that the talent is getting better. They've absolutely been killing it on the recruiting trail. Where this might go wrong, because right now I think they're absolutely going to keep him. It's the same president. It's the same AD. I think they're going to keep him. What could happen is if the recruiting class falls apart, then you don't have that to hang your hat on, then they might be looking at making a change because he's got a worse record at this point than Brian Harsin did in his 2 years. So that is something to pay attention to, certainly going forward. And I think as far as likely good, I think Mike Locksley might be okay. I don't think Maryland wants to make a change. Again, you're going to have to pay a buyout. How much better do you really think somebody could come in and do immediately? At least not without somebody buying a roster, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is if you know that your roster is not quite up to snuff, why not just keep the guy that you've already got so that you don't have to pay this huge buyout? Because whoever you bring in, you're going to have to pay them too. Right? Makes sense. All right. The ones that might be gone. Charles Huff at Marshall. This is an interesting one because Marshall is actually pretty good this year. They're 5-1 against non-Power 4 competition so far this season, so Marshall has been pretty good. The issue is that he is in the last year of a contract. He has, I don't want to say refused, but he has decided not to re-up his deal with Marshall multiple times. I think that he thought that he was going to get a P4 job at some point, and it just never materialized. I don't know how attractive he would be on the open market. I'm certain that he would get an assistant coach job somewhere, but who wants to bring him in to be their head coach? I don't know the answer to that right now. So I think that Marshall might look at the open waters and see what's up, but I mean, it is the last year of his deal. If you don't like what he's done thus far, check out the field, see what you got, and maybe they bring him back on another contract, but who knows? I think both of those sides might be sick of each other. Ryan Walters at Purdue. Things have not gone well at Purdue, and Walters is doing some interesting stuff. Basically, he's running a scheme that does not fit his personnel whatsoever. He's already fired the offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell, because obviously that offensive style did not work with his defensive style. But I'm going to guess they might give him one more year. They might let him make staff changes and whatnot and just see where it goes. Because, again, you're going to have to pay the guy a buyout. This is only his second season. So, but it's not gone well. Purdue has not done well, I'll tell you that. And then Tom Herman at FAU. He might be gone. The stuff at the end of the South Florida game the other night was a bit embarrassing. On top of that, I got a buddy that messaged me afterwards and said, his buyout is not that much. He's making, over $1 million a year, but the buyout is only like 20 weeks of his salary. So it's pennies for his buyout. So if they wanted to get rid of it, now I say pennies, we're talking pennies to a big program. FAU might decide that they don't want to have to pay that. But if you look at their track record of coaches, they've done Lane Kiffin, Willie Taggart, and Tom Herman now. So they're retread central at FAU. Do they want to try something different? They could potentially, because things have not gone well for FAU either. So the ones that are likely gone. I got Mack Brown on here. Mack Brown at North Carolina. I'm interested to see what he ends up doing because obviously this season didn't go well, but his quarterback got hurt right off the bat. They didn't have another guy that was lined up ready to go, and obviously these depth concerns are a big deal when it comes to, how do you explain it? The depth concerns are an issue because of NIL, because of the transfer portal, etc. They were able to get Criswell to come back, but he wasn't built for the offense that they were running with Max Johnson. I don't know what really they can do with this offense. I'm not a fan of their hires. I think that Jeff Collins has done okay this year, but he had Gene Chizik, and he had, right now he's got Chip Lindsey. Now he's got Jeff Collins. I think the defense looks a little bit better. The offense under Chip Lindsey has just been a wreck. Now, this year it's kind of tough because of the quarterback situation, but still. Sonny Cumbie at Louisiana Tech. I think he's probably gone there 3-5. They lost that game the other night to Sam Houston, and Sam Houston was pretty hobbled in that spot. So I think in Ruston, they might just be tired of that whole thing. This was his third year, so I imagine he's probably gone at the end of the year. Don Brown at UMass. This is the third year. I think he's, 6-26, if I'm not mistaken. I think UMass wants to be a little bit better. I mean, UConn hired a retread coach and immediately flipped it around, went to a bowl game. UMass is about to go into the MAC next year. If you were going to start fresh, I suppose this would be the time to do it. So bring in somebody that might be more familiar with the schools that you're going up against. That would be interesting. So Don Brown probably gone. Trent Dilfer at UAB. I mean, that is just an absolute mess. But does the administration at UAB swallow their pride and make the move? Because nobody's coming to get Trent Dilfer. You are going to have to fire him if you want to get rid of him. Or do you just wait it out and see if he can figure out how to coach in college? Like, they've looked a little bit better with Kitna at quarterback, et cetera, but the experiment has not gone well. You hired a high school football coach and that had no ties to the area, that doesn't look at the job like it's somewhere that he really wants to be, or at least it does not appear that way. We'll see what happens with Dilfer. My guess is he's probably gone at the end of the year, but I don't know what his buyout is, et cetera. And Stan Drayton at Temple. Once they made the switch to Evan Simon at quarterback, completely different team. They are competitive. They look a lot better on offense, especially. Defense is still kind of a mess. The roster is still not up to snuff. It's amazing to see how far this program has fallen just in, 8 years, 5 years? Not that long. It has not been very long at all. But again, this is a program that was not exactly set up for this transfer portal NIL era. Not area. What am I talking about? So, the ones that are likely gone to me: Mack Brown, Sonny Cumbie, Don Brown, Stan Drayton, Trent Dilfer. The ones that might be gone are Charles Huff at Marshall, Ryan Walters at Purdue. The ones that are probably good: Neil Brown, Sam Pittman, Hugh Freeze. And the ones that are definitely staying: Dave Aranda and Billy Napier. Thanks for listening to Winning Cures Everything. Make sure and follow me on Twitter at GaryWCE. If you want to toss in a question, you can email me, Gary@winningcureseverything.com. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.